Um, I started out, I come from a West Indian Jamaican background, the youngest of 8 children. 3 of us as boys and the others were girls, and I was the youngest one. So you can imagine, me and my 2 older brothers, we lived in a room together, and they had a group. And they used to have their friends come round and they'd sing in the bedroom and stuff, and that would just kick me off. And then I had some aunts that used to take me to church. And it wasn't that I was a church person. I just, that feeling that you felt when you was in church and people would sing and you just feel your whole inside just kind of like expressive. And I loved that. I started to find that we had a Scottish couple that lived in the house upstairs, and every Christmas they would come down and they would get me and my sisters and we'd go outside and we built a snowman, and Dave had a bagpipes and he would play his bagpipes. What I'm actually trying to show you is that from when I was very small, music was like the essence of everything I did. I had the Jamaican thing coming in with, I'm gonna wear you to the ball tonight. Put on your red dress tonight. Did you hear what I say now, baby? Which was U-Roy, which did the very first rap record, as they would call it today. But back then, 1969, I think it was, he came out with that and just revolutionized reggae music and took it onto another sphere, because Bob was out there at the time, Toots was out there at the time. So you can see my history of reggae music is there because that was our foundation. We had pop music coming in the house. Living in England, you would have your whole thing of, from your Beatles, your Rolling Stones, all of those kind of things. Cat Stevens, I can remember being very successful, all of these different acts. But what was happening to me as an individual was, one, South London, where I came from, was becoming pretty much hot, and being a black youth, we had a curfew when I was 16 in South London, so if you were black, pretty much, if you were on the street, you get picked up. So I'm not coming from I came from an area that was very white, very conservative. They nicknamed it Clam, right? So you can imagine. It was affluent where I lived. It wasn't poor. My parents may not have had as much money as the people that lived within the area, but we didn't go without food. It wasn't that kind of living. We didn't go without certain things. My mum and dad went without. I saw my mum go to a shop and buy 2 shoes for my sisters up from me, and was going to work the next day in a pair of boots that had a hole in it that she put newspaper in. And them days it was snow. And that's what she did for us. She showed me the kind of sacrifice that, I suppose I looked at other women from that period and felt to myself that, well, boy, I don't see them sacrifice like how my mother sacrificed. I don't see them doing that kind of thing and buying for me, right? And thinking about me opposed to thinking about themselves. So I was coming from that kind of setup. Yeah, you had your sibling rivalries, me and my sister up from me, she went into business, she was the artist, she was the one, to be quite honest. But I suppose what it was I had the tenacity. I didn't want to do a 9-to-5 job, simple. I looked and I watched my parents and I saw what they had to do to allow us to have the life that we had. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not working all the hours that God give me for a house and a car, and that's it, the materialistic things of life. I'm not doing it. So my mum and dad called me in when I was 16, and I made them know that, listen, I want to eat pork when I want to eat pork. I want to eat chicken when I want to eat chicken. I want to eat beef when I want to eat beef. I'm going to live. I'm going to live me. I'm not going to go down that path of being told how to live. I remember both of them laughing, but then 8 years later, I made a record called Mama Used to Say, and nobody was laughing then. Saying that to say, when I got to 24 and that started to happen, during that period of time, what Dee was talking about, my then partner, we had 2 children, and By the time I got to 26, Mama used to say he was taking off, I'm going all over the world. We found out that she had multiple sclerosis. In having multiple sclerosis, there was nowhere that we could go to find any kind of literature on that condition. We had a nurse in the family who, she knew a little, but she couldn't really tell us much. So I'm going down a route of running up and down the world and at the same time having to deal with my partner, and at the same time having to deal with 2 kids and making sure that this whole thing was running correct. Well, it couldn't run correct. You're going to have fallbacks, you're going to have things that happen. When we got to about 28 and they diagnosed Nadia as being, yes, you've got multiple sclerosis, and that changed our whole life. Right? The whole way that I did things had to change. I had to be at home more, wasn't out as much, couldn't do the things that, let's say, I love to do. But all the time that was happening, what it was doing, it was growing me as a man. So whereas I was angry because I couldn't do this and I was angry because I couldn't do that, I started realizing that these things were done to teach me certain things. So as I went through my career, I would still write songs. I wrote a song for Beverly Hill Cop called Do You Really Want My Love? The album did 170 million copies worldwide. The film is shown every 3 minutes somewhere in the world. So I'm in a good place. It's just how life is. I'm in a good place. But the success of all of that didn't make me want to continue to move in that direction of being seen all the time, doing that. You start to realize that what's important are the people that you love, and ensuring that you do right by the people that you love, not by the audience that you sing to. I sing to thousands, I sing to tens, I sing to one. I'm being honest within myself as an artist when I perform that way. When I come off stage, the most important thing to me is my kids, my grandkids, my mum and dad before they passed, and still in my heart the same way, right? Nothing else matters. The materialistic, which is what I had with the fast cars, and you could buy the house, and I've got a few of them, and you do this, and you've got a few of that, and but the materialistic is rubbish. Absolute rubbish, because there isn't anything about it that when you die, you go with. So everything you have today, right, use it as a today. Because you see, I used to have only for these things, you know, like rings and the gold chain and stuff. I'm coming from way back, so, you know, I understand that you needed to have that as a young man. You felt that you were important. You needed to have the right trainers on. You needed to have the right jeans. You needed to be in Versace. You needed to be, no you didn't. No you didn't. You just needed to have some clothes so that you could make this work better. Instead of running after the garms, run after the knowledge. So I started understanding that, got to around about 28, decided that I would take back everything that I own from a record company and from publishing. So I own my own publishing. I own my own tapes. As I said, all of this was about learning your craft and also learning that you're in something called business. And the people who run that business, they only care about the colour green. They do not care about your individual colour, black, white, Indian, Chinese. They don't care. So long as they make that money, that's all they care about. And if it means pitting you as a black man against a white man, the white man against the Indian man against the Chinese, they will. Because the bottom line is all that matters. So as soon as you start to grab that and you understand that, and you realise that you are a product within a marketplace, then it's easy, because you know the nature of the beast. You can stand back. You talk about Junior as a product, not Junior the man. How can you know me unless you're with me? You don't know me. You know the product of me. When you get to, again, by the time I got to the 90s and started talking about product and market share and understanding these forces were very important to conglomerates, it made it easier for me to actually stand back and do the right thing, which was to look after Nadia, which I did until she passed, and then Janique lived with me for 8 years until she passed. During that period of time, what it was doing as well, it was building me as a man to fully grasp the fact I have 2 sons. My oldest son is 42, my youngest son is 28. My youngest son comes to me and says he wants to get married, but he's going to make sure that he asks the parents of the girl first, and that he had a whole plan, the 2 of them. I was just in cloud 9 as a father to hear your son sit down. You've grown him to a point whereby he can turn around and say, I'm going to do this, 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 and you know each move is the right move. There's nothing better than that as a man. This whole thing with men being this chivalrous and strong and this, that, and Antara. I went round the world and it was only me and a manager. And the manager would go off sometimes, so he'd leave me on my own. So I'd be there and I would have bodyguards, people I don't know around me and telling me that I can't and I can and whatever else. So I would go to cities and late at night, 1, 2 o'clock, when they're sleeping, I'm on the street, grab a cab, go somewhere. Get to see people, get to know people and fully understand we're no different anywhere in the world. Don't care where you go. Yes, there's nuances, we're a bit different here in shape, but the essence of a man is there. We're no different as people. So I grew, started my own record company a few years back, put out an album, did well in Japan, decided that like, wow, this is great, I'm moving in the way that I want to move. COVID hit, and everybody's like, oh my God, this is terrible, I've got to stay in. COVID wasn't bad for me. COVID was a time to stop. COVID was a time to look back. COVID was a time to understand that like you had walked a journey of living with 2 people who had a dissipating condition. And what was more important, making a record, Junior, to satisfy your audience, or ensuring that you were there? So in that 8 years period that Janique was alive, I really didn't work much. That wasn't what was important. I'd go and I'd sit in with her and we'd play drafts. She used to like chess, so we would play some chess, right till when her arms couldn't move, and she couldn't move her arms, but we could talk. She loved to sing. Unfortunately, she had a tracker put in and that took away her voice. All of these things you're seeing of an individual who had such a love for life, and through this particular disability, right, you're seeing it being taken away and eroded and stuff. But then you're going to go on stage, and you're going to go on the stage with excuse my language, with a Michael Jackson, which is what I did, and I did the Bad Tour. And I'm watching and I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing this Michael Jackson, and he's incredible, and what he does is fantastic. But I wanted to go home. I went on stage and I did 125,000 people in Aintree, myself and Kim Wilde. And I wanted to go home, man. It was lovely, it was great. But when I got home, my daughter was sitting up and she asked me, how did it go? And I said, it went well, you know, Jim. And she turned and then she said to me, do you want to play, do you want to play Snap? I just shook my head. I just played in front of 125,000 people, and I was more happy to sit down and play Snap than I was to sing to you. So I'm going to close, but what I'm trying to get at with my journey going along to where I got to is sometimes, you know, gentlemen, we would like our whole life to run like this. So it's there, and then we're going, and it's always on a higher trajectory. Sometimes we get just one knock, right, and it falls us and we drop. And we go into that abyss of what do? I don't know where I am. I'm not this and I'm not that. Trust me. Trust me. That abyss that you dropped into right there was to tell you to stand up and be a man to you, not to anybody else. Be a man to you. Be honest to you. Tell the truth to you. Don't lie to you. I'm in an industry whereby you see people come on stage and they chat some fart. It's the truth. They come up here and they chat complete rubbish, and you sit there and you're like, but my friend, I know you. You're nothing like that. You're nothing like what you're trying to project for these people to buy into. You know? I'm not that. I never have been. I did a show called The Swap Shop. I don't know if you can remember it. Back in the day, I wrote the music for it. And they did this whole thing where you're supposed to stand up and take pictures and this, that, and Antara, and a guy called B.A. Robinson, who I wrote it with, you know, they were all into this whole thing of, I'm going to be up front, I'm going to be a star, I'm going to be this and I want to be that. And everybody watched as I slightly kind of went behind the piano and sat behind the piano and tried to ensure that they didn't shoot me. I didn't want people seeing me on the show. Nah, mate. I wanted to be able to walk around and do what I did and do me. Fame isn't fame. Fame for some people is that adulation of people seeing you and they gravitate to you and stuff like this. I know a lot of friends in the business who are like that. Fame for me was never that. Fame for me was being able to look after my family. Fame for me was being able to have a laugh with my brothers when now I was the little kid who learned from them, and now they're coming to me and saying, boy, Junior, oh this thing go, and oh that go. I loved it. My thing was family first and foremost, always has been, it won't change. Anything else around that is wonderful. You have to go out and express yourself and be who you are. Brilliant. But the long and the short is, family, charity begins at home. Charity begins at home. We look out for our one another. Otherwise, it ain't gonna work. All of this, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. Yeah, it does, but you know something, right? We need some discipline inside the house. I got 8 of us, there was 8 of us as brothers and sisters. And as I said, on top of one another. But my mum and dad can turn around and say, well boy, none of them bring no policeman in my yard. That was their big thing, right? That was their big thing. Where did we go wrong? My generation, where did we go wrong? Where they do hit the door. Where they do come in and kick off the door. Where did we go wrong? What did we miss? Right? What were we flying to get that we missed the teachings of our parents that kept us in good stead to move forward? Right? We need to check ourselves. I check myself all the time. I ain't got no choice. But we need to check ourselves because we've given away so much to our culture, and the way that we are as people is being watered down and incorporated into a society that doesn't even really 100% want you, other than for work and other than for money. So if there is anything really that I'm going to say, it's that like we need to fully grasp we're living in a time whereby divide and conquer is the rule. Big time. And we need to fully grasp the fact that we are more integrated than press, public and anybody else wants to see it as being. We're now one. And if we don't move as one, right, we're going to be dysfunctional. And we don't need the dysfunction because our children are showing us that dysfunction. We can't have it anymore, right? We have to fully grasp the fact that we work together or it doesn't work. It cannot be fractioned out. That's the way that they want it to be. We need to come together, we need to have one head, we need to put them under pressure so that the right things are done by our children, not by us. We're too old now, right? We have to fully grasp that and move this thing forward, but collectively in a way whereby whatever it is at the top that we're getting can be shifted down to every charity and movement equally so that they can help the environments that they're living in. I'm leaving you there. That's me, Junior Giscombe. See you later.